Good evening again, everyone. My name is Matt Miller. I'm the superintendent at Mentor Schools. Thank you all for being here tonight for the 21st induction ceremony of the Mentor High School Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. Thank you to the Hall of Fame committee for another great event and another great day for our attendees. It's always been a joy to be a part of nights like this, where we have the opportunity to honor some of Mentor's finest graduates who have continued to represent our community well in the years after high school. This year, 6 inductees spanned from graduating Mentor High School 30 years ago to 65 years ago. Even though each of their experiences at Mentor High School must have been quite different as the years went by, one thing that has always remained the same is the annual Cardinal Notes. And what better way to first introduce you to our inductees tonight than our traditional flipping through those old yearbooks. We start this year in 1952, yes, 65 years ago, and the Cardinal Notes is themed Sitting on Top of the World. The annual is most definitely printed in black and white in 52, and photos depict the office staff is high-tech with bulky typewriters and clunky rotary phones. It doesn't take long to find Wallace Hood looking quite dapper in a bow tie among the small class of Mentor High seniors, about 100 students or so. Wally chose the following quote, which I've edited, to sit next to his picture for all time. Quote, "A sense of humor is the only thing that keeps intelligent people from harming themselves," unquote. Funny how those times have changed, as we would have most likely not allowed that quote in days like this. We could also ask Wally what it was like to play for Coach Tressel on the football team, Lee Tressel, leading our Cardinals in 1952. All right, our next one. Jumping into the next decade, 1964 to be exact, Mentor High School has grown to nearly 1,700 students in the school. And on page 25 of the Cardinal Notes, we find who we now know as Jill Stamm as high school senior Jill Kneen instead. They stopped putting quotes next to the senior photos at this point, probably because of Wally, or because sensible Jill was actually serving on the yearbook staff. Perhaps my favorite part of flipping through this edition of the Cardinal Notes was finding Jill voted most likely to succeed, and how fitting to know her classmates were right on as she sits here getting inducted into the Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame tonight, more than 50 years after graduation. Moving on to the 50th edition of the Cardinal Notes, we find Sue Basel pictured as Sue Sternad among the class of 1975. A lot has changed by this time. Mentor High School is about 10 years into its new location on Center Street, and this graduating class is now 900 students strong. The seniors seemed a bit salty that for the first time ever at Mentor High, the computer scheduled them, leaving some students with too many English classes and not enough lunch. Beyond the class schedule, though, the Cardinal Notes is proof that Sue was really involved in extracurricular activities, particularly music programs, including a cappella choir and Senior Girls Glee Club, which boasted having great concerts that year. And leaving the 70s for 1980, the Cardinal Notes theme is Close Up, and we find Michael Salinger's Close Up on page 46. Mike was among 765 Mentor High School seniors in the graduating class. It looks like the students knew how to have a good time in 1980, judging by the annual, with students hosting the first ever all-school carnival and a donkey basketball game. Whatever that is. We'll have to ask about that. Michael was busy soaking in all the English and writing electives that were offered at that time at Mentor High School, developing his love of poetry, where he has found success pursuing that passion today. We also found him photographed with the wrestling team. And just a year later, in 1981, Pam Trivisonno walked the halls of Mentor High School as Pam Leber. Here's her senior portrait we found in volume 56 of the Cardinal Notes. The theme of this yearbook was Reflections of Red and Gray Days. How fitting for Pam, who has kept that theme ever since, always rooting for the Cardinals. On the same note, and no surprise here, we found Pam photographed as a member of the pep club. She was also a cheerleader, basketball player, and track sprinter during her time at Manor High. You can tell Pam had already started her spirit of giving back to the community during her high school days, and we are grateful she has continued doing so for the Mentor community ever since. And we're staying in the 80s for our final inductee tonight. Amy Roediger did not get lost in the crowd among the Mentor High School class of 1987. The Cardinal Notes is themed Stepping Up and Stepping Out, and on the first page it says, Mentor High students are not only committed to academic excellence and stepping up in the world, but they are also dedicated to stepping out and having fun. And there couldn't have been a student this quote was more fitting for, and how about doing both pieces at the same time? Flipping through the pages of the 87 yearbook, Amy was just as involved then as she is now in extracurricular activities, including National Honor Society, Top 25, Liars Club, a cappella choir, to name just a few. She was even voted most musical in the senior poll. I don't know if that's singing. Are you going to do that?
Yeah, I thought you were right.
Great. Awesome. But perhaps my favorite find in the 87 yearbook is that she volunteered as a chem lab aide. Who knew she would go on to change the lives of thousands of students as the most excellent teacher in those very same chem labs? That's the first look at the 2017 class of the MHS Distinguished Alumni Hall of Fame. As the night continues, you'll hear more about each individual and the accomplishments that have led us to tonight. On behalf of Mentor Schools and the Mentor Board of Education, I would like to say congratulations to this year's inductees. Can we give them all a round of applause? And at this time, I'm going to invite up Peggy Kelly, and Peggy's going to take the podium for a little bit. Peggy herself is an inductee into the Hall of Fame as well, and part of the committee. Peggy?
Glasses. Welcome to the 2017 21st Annual Mentor High School Hall of Fame induction ceremony and dinner. We are honored to have special guests this evening and would like to recognize them. Would any members of the Mentor School Board and Mentor School Administration please rise? If we have any staff members from the school present, would you rise? And we have trustees and board members of the Alumni and Friends of Mentor High present. Can you stand, please? And any past Hall of Fame inductees, would you please stand? Wow. Please welcome Alumni and Friends Vice President Rick Porter to present scholarships.
Good evening, everyone. The Alumni and Friends of Mentor High School has a scholarship program. This is what we do. The 2007 Alumni and Friends of Mentor High School scholarship recipients are William Klein, who's going to Indiana University, Kelsey Ryder, who's attending Kent State University, Evan Posner, Ohio State University. Each year, the Alumni and Friends of Mentor High School award scholarship money to deserving Mentor High graduates who are attending college, career technical school, or in other postgraduate training. To date, approximately $22,000 has been raised in scholarship money to be awarded since the inception of the program in 1999. This is why we do this evening. We love new inductees, but we do raise money for that. If you want to help, we have t-shirts and stuff back there that will help us raise money for future graduates of Mentor High. And thank you. And I would like to introduce the new principal at Mentor High School, Mr. Andy Fetchuk.
I have 3 children at home under the age of 14. That noise is very familiar. So I was honored tonight to be asked to give the invocation, so if you can join me. As we join together this evening to celebrate our very special Mentor High School alumni among family and friends, please join me and let's bow our heads for a moment of reflection and thanks. We are blessed tonight to have this many of our finest fighting Cardinals from many generations all together in one room. Let us be grateful for the many gifts we have been given and the talents bestowed on our humble Hall of Fame inductees. Let their legacy be an example for our current students. Let them see that through hard work, commitment, and sheer resolve that we can all aspire to a lifetime of success. Let us hope for continued success and happiness for each of our inductees, their loved ones, and our future inductees as we share this meal prepared for us tonight. In this, we ask your blessing. Thank you.
Let's take a look back to the year 1952. Eleanor B. Garfield, granddaughter-in-law of President James Garfield, becomes Mentor's first woman mayor and plans Mentor's first industrial park. She then works with Ron Dawson, Hall of Fame Class 2005, with the governor to relocate proposed State Route 2 so it won't bisect the new industrial park. The Today Show debuts on NBC. The Greatest Show on Earth won Best Picture. American Bandstand premieres. The Weber Grill is invented. The top quote, "Lucy, I'm home," as the I Love Lucy show starts its second year. And A. Wallace Hood graduated Mentor High School. After graduating from Mentor High, Wally Hood attended Ohio Wesleyan University, where he participated in football and baseball. He received his degree in health and education and a minor in history in 1957. His education continued at Kent State, earning his master's. He has a specialist degree in driver's ed. His career began where he started, at Mentor High School, teaching social studies, coaching football, and serving as a baseball coach. This was the beginning of a 45-year career in education and coaching. Wally taught and coached football for Ashland, Olmsted Falls, Defiance, and Cuyahoga Falls school systems as head coach for the last 3. He then moved to college coaching, being hired by his former high school coach, Les Tressel, at Baldwin-Wallace College. He then moved on to Colgate University. In 1974, Wally became a professor and head football coach at Ohio Northern University and continued to Fairmont State College, Front Royal, and Kenyon College, and finishing up his illustrious career at Otterbein College in 2002. He has been awarded Coach of the Year in 1959, 1982, 1988, and 2002, and thus elected into the Ohio High School Football Coaches Hall of Fame in 2008. He has served as president of the Ohio Athletic Conference Football Coaches, president of the West Virginia Conference Football Coaches, and named national president of the NAIA Football Coaches. In 2002, Wally became trustee of the board of the Wilson Sporting Goods Museum. Outside sports, Wally is extremely active in his community, volunteering at his church, assisting with hats, mittens, and school supplies for elementary children, and food collections. He also serves as president of the Homeowners Association and works at the golf tournament fundraiser and the physical plant committee. He can also be found as a Salvation Army bell ringer during the holidays. Wally could not be here due to illness, excepting for Wally is his wife, Irma.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. I promised Coach that I wouldn't change his message too much. He had already written what he was going to say. And of course is very heartbroken that he isn't here to do it. And I'm very glad to tell you a little bit about Coach Hood. He has a handful of thanks for you. That's how he starts the meetings at our Villa Association, with his whistle. He has this handful of things, and he didn't want to leave anybody out, but you know how hard it is, and he did say 5 minutes, so here we go. First of all, he wanted to thank Tom Marr for the wonderful nomination and for the committee for selecting him. He says, "This is the greatest honor of my life." I want to thank my parents, he said, for moving me to Menor. He was born in Cleveland, and at the age of 2, they came to Menor to live. This gave me, he said, the opportunity to grow up in a community that enriched my life forever. The excellent faculty, staff, and administration prepared me to meet confidently the world as it was in that day. I want to thank also Dale Rice. He was the superintendent of schools that hired Lee Tressel and Stretch Robertson. And that's when the culture of sports changed in Mentor. Many thanks to Lee Tressel family. They were part of my life that turned everything around. They guided me, they mentored me, they even made him babysitter occasionally. They took him under their wing, and I had to go with him to make sure that I was the right choice. We took a trip to Massillon, and Lee said it was going to be okay, so that is the story. And we still have a wonderful relationship with Dave and Jim Tressel, something that has really enriched our lives. Also, another thanks to Dale Rice. He was really very important. He hired me for my first job at Menor, teaching and coaching. He also hired Irma J. Carlson for her first teaching job. It was a good choice for me. It was love at first sight. My partner now for nearly 60 years. So many thanks for my family. They aren't able to be here this day, but I have 3 wonderful sons with my wife, and they have wonderful wives and family, and 5 grandchildren. And one of the best things is all the boys can be called Coach. That's what my husband's name tag is at Copeland Oaks, just Coach. I am so grateful also for my 1952 classmates. They have been such a wonderful part of my life. I believe there were 104 graduates, at least that's what he said today. And we have been blessed with lovely reunions over the years. And we have a special group of 1952 graduates that meet about 5 or 6 times a year. I think we do more if we could get Sally to plan more. But it's a good chance we get together from all over and come and just enjoy each other. We usually meet for lunch. We always eat. And then we go to a museum or something like that and end up reminiscing and telling stories. And it's been a wonderful part of our lives. And I think at the end of your life, when your days are numbered, it's so good to go back to the people who were in the beginning of your life. And we so appreciate that group. There's no way Wally can accept this award except the fact that he had wonderful coaches, wonderful assistants, who have really been so important. And the really important things is all the great players he had and how willing they were to sacrifice and to do what they were asked to do and to be loyal. He would not accept this award unless they were that way for him, because they make a coach. A man is a good coach, but he has to have a good team behind him if that's going to be a winner. Many thanks also to Copeland Oaks. This is a retirement center in Sebring, which has become our home. We are so thrilled to be there, and I think it reminds Wally about how he grew up in a wonderful town called Menor, who made him feel very secure, safe, appreciated, and loved. That's a very good feeling, and that's what we get in our retirement community, and he is so grateful for that. I want to thank everyone who made this dinner a possibility. It was such a wonderful thing, and I'm hoping that he will be well enough to come back next year and see the school and meet the students, because that would be very important for him. And his last words are, "Go Cards!" He wrote it very well.
Hang on, Selma, let me get a picture.
Oh, okay.
Hand it to her, just please.
Yes.
Gotta take this back to Wally.
Okay, thank you so much.
The year is 1964. Menor businessmen Bob Krall and Jim Tonkry work on the design of the Civic Center project, while real estate agent and councilman Bill Boyd negotiates the purchase of the former Klein Nursery property. Robert Brewer takes over as the city manager. Top quote for the year, "Does she or doesn't she?" from Clairol. The Ford Mustang was introduced. David Bowie's first TV appearance was in 1964 at the age of 17, but was not for his music. He was interviewed by the BBC's Tonight Show as the founder of the Society of the Prevention of Cruelty to Long-Haired Men. Fashion news, the miniskirt was introduced, scandalizing conservatives and signaling the rapid change of the morals of the decade. And Jill Sneed Stamm graduated from Menor High School. Jill earned her bachelor's degree from DePaul University and her master's degree and doctorate in living and instructional technology from Arizona State University, where she retired as an assistant clinical professor in the Department of Psychology and Education. Dr. Stamm is the author of Bright from the Start, the simple, science-backed way to nurture your child's developing mind from birth to age 3. She has been quoted in several publications, including People magazine, appeared on numerous television shows, and done countless radio and website interviews on child development. Not only does she present at conferences throughout the United States, but has done so in Europe as well. Jill is a frequent speaker at conferences hosted by Harvard, MIT, Stanford, and at the Child Welfare League. Jill serves as a member of the Natural Advisory Panel of Learning and the Brain Conferences, on the Governor's Advisory Panel, Council on Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Her past service includes Governor's Advisory Council for Head Start Arizona, Arizona Community Foundation, Early Child Care and Education Committee, Arizona Science Center's National Advisory Council on Brain Development, Phoenix Task Force on Early Childhood, and the Greater Phoenix Leadership P20 Education Reform Board. Jill is not only an educator and author, but the co-founder of the New Directions Institute for Brain Development. New Directions trainers conduct workshops to professionals and laymen on how to promote healthy brain development. She is also the creator of the Brain Box, a product that encourages healthy brain development, and Baby Brain Box for children birth to 1 year. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jill Stamm, 2017 Mentor Alumni Hall of Fame inductee.
Well, I had no idea that the famous quote was, does she or doesn't she? And I do. So from the bio, you heard that I'm interested in children's brains, how they develop, how we can nurture them to be healthy, whether it is early brain development, which happens to be my specialty. But today I had the pleasure of spending the morning at your high school. And I say your high school because I was probably one of the last graduating classes that was at the Memorial High School, at where Wally was. And so going through and having a tour today of the high school, I met just fabulous students, two of whom took me around and gave me a tour of this whole new way of teaching. Now, I've heard about this and I've seen it at conferences and so on, but my goodness, we can in Mentor be so proud of this high school. It didn't look like a high school, at least not the traditional high schools that I had gone to and that I had visited at various points in my teaching career. Because it looked a little bit more like Google or like one of the high-tech companies that are in the Research Triangle in North Carolina, where there are couches and lounge chairs and meeting rooms and tables like we're sitting at for collaboration, which in today's day of isolating people with our own little smartphones and being so separate from one another, I really am inspired by what I saw today, because the students are actually talking to one another. They're working together in groups to solve problems, which is what we need in this country. What we also need in this country, and I can't help but to say it because I'm so interested in early brain development, is we need people to pay attention to our little tiny children. Because what we've learned about brains in the last 15 or 20 years is that they develop really early. And so the work that I do in Arizona is based on trying to translate for people exactly what it is that the neuroscientists know about how a brain really develops, and then to figure out ways to share it widely within the community so that we will do a better job at paying attention to young children. I have two children in my own life, and I started out as a 5th grade teacher for a couple of years, and I always was wondering, it was before my children were born, so I had a little more extra time to spend with a child who was maybe struggling. And so I would stay after school and I'd be working with a child. Tom would be an example of a child I would be working with who was having trouble in math or whatever. And I would work with him and he would get it. And I would leave feeling triumphant, and so would he. But he would come back the next day and it was gone. And I wanted to know, I went back to get my PhD, I wanted to know what is it that happens to children whose memories aren't very solid and who are struggling in school. I really wanted to understand the biology of it. So what I've learned is that stress plays a huge part in that, and seeing schools that operate, that help to reduce stress, not only in little children, but in the high school. What I saw today was a very stress-free environment where people talk to one another and they are engaged with one another. So it's wonderful. So I went back to school, and I was interrupted for a couple of years when my two children were born. So my youngest child grew up to be a neuroscientist, which is terrific. So I have my own little neuroscientist in my pocket that I can pull out at any time to find out how does this actually go? Because I'm an educator, I'm not a neuroscientist. So that's been terrific. And I've learned a lot from her. But I've really also learned a lot from my oldest child, Jenny, who was born, and I look around this room and I'll bet you lots of us remember the name Karen Quinlan, who was the first human to be put onto a respirator back in 1974. And Jenny was one of the first babies. She was born very premature. She weighed a little bit over a pound. So that was my introduction to motherhood. And so she was on a respirator for a very long time. And as a result of all of that early trauma in her life, she is very handicapped. And so it has been both a challenge and a blessing to me, because her learning was actually so slow. I could actually see the moment at which she learned something. And seeing that slowed down to the point where I really was able to say, this is something I can impact. I can impact how human beings learn. And so that's what I've devoted my career to. And as I said, I'm so happy to see what's going on in our schools here in Mentor. And I met the superintendent of all of the schools today and had a chance to talk with him. I'm just really proud that I came from Mentor. I've actually lived now in Arizona for almost 50 years. So I come back to visit fairly frequently, but the name Kneen might be familiar to some of you because sitting here is my mother, Arlene Kneen, who started Traveline, travel agency. She's now 100 years old. And sharper than I am not kidding you. Her memory is just amazing, and she's super healthy, so I've got a lot to live up to. This is kind of a daunting thought. But my brother and his wife are here, and they own the Lawnfield Inn in Suisse, and many of you have gone to their restaurant, Sky. So even though I don't live here, there's a lot of our family that is still here in Mentor, still based in Mentor, and still very concerned about the quality of life in the community. And I want to end by thanking Cheryl, Milik, Courtney for nominating me. This was a big surprise, and it's been so nice to have contact. Hal Kale is here to be able to come back to Mentor and still have familiar faces and feel so welcome. I just want to end by saying that there are 2 points in the human being's life when their brain is massively reorganizing, massively developing. One of them is the early years, as I was talking about, this birth to 3 period. But the other area that the scientists have figured out is, in fact, teenagers. And so anytime that the brain is growing rapidly, either in early childhood or in the teen years, it's a wonderful opportunity, but it is also a point of vulnerability. So I hope that all of us in Mentor will continue to care about and pay attention to our high school students, because what gets reinforced in high school really matters, because that's the brain that we take on to our adult lives. So thank you for having me, and I really enjoyed the day. Thanks.
Moving on, the year is 1975. Mentor teachers go on strike. The students stage a walkout over losing their smoking area. Top quote, and you all know it, 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Jimmy Hoffa disappeared. President Ford survived 2 assassination attempts. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest won all of the Big Five Academy Awards: Best Picture, Director, Actor, Actress, and Best Writing. And Susan Sternad Basel graduated from Mentor High School. Susan earned her BA in Psychology Statistics at Lake Erie College. She attended Case Western Reserve University, receiving her master's degree in Social Administration and Adler University for an MA Diplomatic program. Her master's degree is in Project Management and from Regis University. She started her career as a clinical supervisor for special projects and clinical staff for the Center for Children and Families in Cleveland, and was also a consultant, writer, project manager, facilitator, for the Institute for Creative Learning. As a family program administrator for the 9th Coast Guard District, Susan developed policies to standardize intervention programs, ethical regulations, and best practices as advocate, consultant, trainer, policymaker, and everything in between for the 8-state Great Lakes region. She went on to Workforce Policy Advisor. Susan served as key advisor to the USCG Commandant. She developed and implemented USCG's first Diversity Strategic Board and served as committee chair for Women and Minority Issues Board. Ms. Basel was a consultant and debriefer for drug interdiction activities for all 7 district USCG critical incidents and traumatic events, while providing training, unit training, and then went to work for the Defense Intelligence Agency as Chief of Plans and Programs. She became Deputy Chief of the Diversity Management and Equal Opportunity Office in 2004. She directed all legislative, congressionally directed programs, policies, and plans while spearheading the Women's Career Development and Mentoring Lecture Series as a few of her duties. Susan then moved up to be Senior Operations Director, where she managed all office operations and personnel in the DIA Comptroller's Office and key writer in developing responses to congressional data cells. Remaining with the DIA, she then took on the position of Chief Enterprise Operations Office and Chief Workforce Relations Project Manager, developing over 22 policies and procedures. She served as staff director for both the Solutions Integration Office and the Enterprise Management Office of the CIO, implementing efforts resulting in 100% adherence to scheduling impacting delivery of capabilities to warfighters worldwide, and establishing peer review policies. She is currently Senior Intelligent Community Engagement Lead, a joint duty assignment with the National Geospatial Agency, the DIA, as lead briefer on IT systems rollout impacting all 18 intelligence community agencies, including all 5 military branches. She published over 120 articles on system capabilities, functions, and user guides and tips. Her awards, certifications, and affiliations are too numerous to list, but she has been listed in 6 different Who's Who's publications. In her spare time, she is active with Hospice, Meals on Wheels, Federal Employee Outreach Program for shut-ins. She's taught art classes at Walter Reed to injured service members and participates in a guitar group and church choirs. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome 2017 Mentor Alumni Hall of Fame inductee, Susan Sternad Basel.
Wow, what a day. I started out the day doing the chicken dance at a pep rally, and here I am. First of all, I want to thank the board of directors for this nomination, and Irene Carl, who is just an amazing person. I don't know where she finds her energy. But I had a wonderful day today. I got an opportunity to speak to student classrooms. I got a chance to speak to the teachers this afternoon about project-based learning and the nexus of project-based learning as it applies into the intelligence community. And we found a pretty much a one-to-one ratio. I have had a wonderful, joyful ride in my career. I keep telling my boss of late that I have a hard time believing that they pay me so much to have so much fun. And he said, we'll need to talk about that. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank the people that have been really key to my journey here today. First of all, I want to recognize my husband of 25 years, Brian Basel. If you want to stand up. Brian has been my personal champion. He accepted me as I was without trying to change me. That's kind of a universal thing that spouses usually don't do with each other. They usually spend the rest of their life trying to change the other person because they annoy the heck out of them, right? He doesn't do that. In fact, when I met him, he was such a champion of women at a time when it wasn't popular, and I really admire him for that. He has pushed me to be the best person I can be on a daily basis, and I just want to thank you, Brian, for everything you've done. I also want to recognize my sister, Barbara Burkus. Stand up, Barb. Barb is a graduate of Mentor High School in 1966, and her and my brother, Rich Sternad, stand up, Rich. This is a time for personal embarrassment. Rich is a graduate of Mentor High School from 1970. The two of them have been working on me since I was born. And I think that they probably say after the ceremony, it's a tough nut to crack. And I'm not sure if they have cracked the nut yet, but they've been working on me. They have been a tremendous set of role models for me throughout my life. And I just want to thank you for being my brother and sister. You're great. I wish my mom and dad were here too, because they taught us a lot of really great life lessons that have made me the person that I am today. I also have with me today my Uncle Norby. I didn't expect him to be here, so I've worked him into my thoughts. My Uncle Norby is my dad's youngest brother, and he's just the greatest guy in the world. He is probably one of the smartest people I've ever met, but he's also got the biggest heart in the world too. It's a great combination of someone to emulate, and that's really taught me not only a good business sense, but also a sense of compassion for other people and animals and everyone else. I have a family of animals over there. I also wanted to recognize, I have a group of cousins that are like a second skin for me. I got to do a special shout out to the Oakhorns and the Sternads over there. You stand up, please. Yeah, these cousins are like, they're with me every step of the way throughout my life. They've just been great. They're like I said, a second skin, a second set of family. And I have my Aunt Lillian over there, who is going to be 90 years old this year. Aunt Lillian. And I also have a very special friend here who's like a second brother to me, Ken Wyban. Where are you? Yeah, my family used to say every family needs a Ken in it, and there he is. He's just a great person. I also have a very good friend who used to sit in the back of the bus with me, and we used to do all kinds of antics on the bus too. Mike Wertheimer. I also wanted to do a special shout out for some teachers that I don't know where I'd be without them, because I would have been, I was really a cut up in school. I'm sure that it was very difficult for them to find my virtuous qualities, but somehow they did. I don't think that they're here tonight, but I will definitely give them my message to them personally. One of them is Mr. Jerry Kinsvater, who, when I got my first master's degree, sent me the most beautiful letter I have ever read in my life, and I just never forget it. But when I was in high school, every time I got into trouble, he'd pull me aside, Susan, and have that one-on-one talk. I knew I was in trouble with a science teacher if somebody was pulling me aside. But for some reason, he just took a special liking to me. He saw a spark in me that I didn't know in myself. Another person was Mr. Lorick, who, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in the psychology field and have had the illustrious career that I had. Miss Sally Davidson was another person who taught me how to write. She encouraged me to write, and I'll tell you what, it's really gotten me far in my career. Mrs. Shockey was another person who I've had a love of music. I'm in a group called the Nutty Buckeyes in Washington, D.C. It's a bunch of goofy guitar players. We're just strumming along on guitars and playing songs and just having a ball. So anyway, without further ado, I just wanted to thank you for all of you for sharing this moment with me. This is such a tremendous honor, and I'm just so very grateful. Thank you very much. I get the pyramid. Yeah.
Hi there. You guys get together? Go. One more. Another big smile. There we go.
Thank you.
Moving down our timeline, it is now 1980. The city purchases the Wildwood Estate from John Oliver's granddaughters to create a cultural and education center. Mentor's population is 42,065. The city acquires the Mentor Recreation Park and opens it to the public as the Eleanor B. Garfield Park. Famous quote, "Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?" John Lennon was murdered, and the Trix rabbit finally got to eat that cereal. Interesting fact, even in the worst case scenario, the Rubik's Cube is only 20 moves from being solved. Vanna White was discovered on The Price is Right. She was one of the first 4 contestants, but never made it on the stage. And Michael Salinger graduated from Mentor High School. Michael has become a successful writer and teaching artist since graduating from Mentor High School. An award-winning author in poetry, fiction, and drama, his work has also appeared in dozens of literary journals and produced on stage. Mr. Salinger is the author of 7 collections of poetry, of which Stingray was nominated for the Pulitzer Pushcart Prize. He has also co-authored teacher professional publications. He is a frequent presenter at local, state, and national teaching conferences, offering developmental ideas to middle and upper school educators. He has done presentations from China to Turkey, from Egypt to South Korea, and from Eastern Europe to Indonesia. An 8-time captain and coach of the Cleveland Slam team, a poetry competition team, he has served as a consultant and board member of the Poetry Slam Incorporated. Mr. Salinger founded the organization's Summer Writing and Performance Conference and the Teen Writing and Performance Program for Cleveland's Playhouse Square Foundation. In addition to Poetry Slam, Michael has served on the board of the Cleveland Public Theater and the LIT, Cleveland Literary Center. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Michael Salinger, 2017 Mentor Hall of Fame inductee.
Do not feed the monkey. Don't look him in the eye. Don't smile even if you're happy. Let me tell you why. Monkeys are greedy and bad company. One treat won't satisfy. If you feed the monkey, monkeys are not shy. They reach into your pockets, pry your glasses from your eyes. They've sticky little fingers. Kiss your bananas. Goodbye. Do not feed the monkey. Don't look them in the eye. That's a true story. It's a hard-earned lesson. Since graduating, I've had the opportunity, and I've been really lucky to work with educators all over the world. I'm honored to be up here with Amy, Susan, Jill, and Pam. I'm really sorry I didn't get to meet Wally. I want to thank Irene. I want to thank Rick and Peggy for the hard work, and I especially want to thank my partner in rhyme, Sarah Holbrook, who rescued me from being a quality engineer and helped break me into this world of education and being working with teachers and working with students. What I remember most about Mentor High was choice, was having different choices. And I didn't always make the best choices, but choices were there. And the choices I'm talking about were choices in electives in the language arts. And I got to work with specific teachers that really made a difference to me. I had journalism classes, poetry classes, science fiction, and they all helped me develop this deeper understanding for communication and written word. And if there's anything that I can do that has made me even a modicum of success, is the fact I can stand up and I can look someone in the eye and speak with conviction. And that started back in Menor High. That started with Mr. Hollis, was one of the first people to help me. And I referenced Mr. Kinsvater as well, too, because he was just a little bit mean, but I liked him. He was fun. He was fun. Mrs. Wallach, Kathy Wallach, she told me that I was possibly one of the best writers she ever had, but absolutely the worst speller. So, and she didn't hold that against me, which was something that could happen. And that's a mistake you can make with kids, is like really getting, she could have stopped me in my tracks. Greg Allen and Mr. Young. In touring the school today, I was really glad to see the innovation that's happening. I work a lot in some of the higher end schools across the globe, and Menor looks like they would fit right in. And I was really, really happy to see that they're embracing these new pedagogies, these new paradigms of learning and project-based learning, inquiry-based learning. This is all stuff that's really going to make a difference. I was even further encouraged at lunch when the conversation turned to how can we serve our students better. And that was what was being spoke about at the table. They were still talking about their students and what they can do to help them. And I think that's really, really important that it's happening here. And in my years of travel, I've been to dozens and dozens of countries. I've worked with tens of thousands of students. And the thing that I've learned to appreciate is what we share in common is much more important than what is different about us. And I think the seed of this realization came at Menor High when I was going to school there, when I was growing up there. And I'm going to finish with a poem. Now, I write for all ages. That first one was for younger people. This is an adult poem. It's not X-rated, but it's meant for people who are out of 8th grade, I would say. I am carrying plastic thermoses of tea on the dusty back streets of Dhaka before the sun climbs hazy into the orange sky. I'm selling knockoff headphones in Hong Kong's ladies' market. I am pulling noodles, Lanzhou style, folding and stretching the elastic dough in a small halal shop in Shanghai. I am herding ducks in Vietnam, driving a cab in Singapore, walking tightrope as entertainment in a tourist park in Seoul, Korea. I am just like you. I'm taking offerings to a temple in Bali. I am showing you my deformities, tapping with a pale fingernail on your taxi's window in Delhi. I gather palm oil nuts into a burlap sack in Duri, Sumatra. I lunch on Wall Street. I'm shining shoes at LAX. I'm sleeping in a yurt on the steps, my horse pawing the frozen earth with the front hoof. I am just like you. I'm waiting to be found out, called onto the carpet, my rib cage rendered open and exposed as a fraud. Just like you, I have no idea how I got here. Just like you, I'm everywhere. I close my eyes nearly every night, and in doing so, forget that I exist. I inhale atoms over 13 billion years old in order to talk about the weather with someone next to me and whom I will never know. Sometimes I need an alarm clock to wake up. And when I do, I wake up just a little bit confused. I'm just like you. I'm making it up as I go along. Thank you. No pictures?
Oh, I'm not. don't have a camera. Just a small jump now into the year 1981. A pool, tennis courts, and hiking trails open at the Civic Center Park. Wildwood is named to the National Register of Historic Places. Morton Community Park and Pool opens. Top quote from Lay's Potato Chips, bet you can't eat just one. Code of the Secret Service was a movie which lead actor Ronald Reagan called the worst picture I ever made. The film inspired a man named Jerry Spar to join the Secret Service, who in 1981 saved President Reagan from an assassination attempt. MTV debuted on the air with the first video, Video Killed the Radio Star. Sandra Day O'Connor became the first female Supreme Court Justice, and Princess Charles married Lady Diana. And Pam Leber Trivisonno graduated from Mentor High School. After earning her BS in Business Administration from Bowling Green State University, Pam earned her CPA certificate in 1987 and has been in private practice in Mentor for 20 years. She's been a leader with the Mentor School's Business Advisory Council for 25 years, participating in the career fair at the high school and sponsoring several students for their senior projects. She is also invited into our schools for classroom speaking engagements to promote accounting careers and discuss current business issues. Pam is a current member of the Mentor Schools Citizen Finance Council and the treasurer of the Mentor Schools Levy Committee. Other commitments to the Mentor Schools include a past treasurer of the Bellflower PTA, various committees at Ridge Junior High, treasurer of the Mentor High School Cardinal Parents Club for 10 years, along with assisting the Mentor Football Red Line Club. Outside of the schools, Pam held the position of treasurer of the Mentor Chamber of Commerce for 3 years, during which she became involved in the chamber golf outing. She is still active in the Educational Foundation, which offers scholarships to local high school students and hosting student leaders at the monthly chamber meetings. In 2002, she was awarded the Mentor Chamber Business Leader of the Year Award for her tireless professional and civic activities. After serving on the board for 10 years, Pam remains an active business resource of the Learning About Business program at Lake Erie College. She was awarded the Pauline Krug Friends of the LAB Award for her commitment to the program. She has also volunteered with eCity, an entrepreneurial partnership between Big Brothers and Big Sisters and Harvey High School students, and currently Pam is on the board of Lake Start, a nonprofit organization that mentors local entrepreneurs. Pam remains an integral part of her 1981 MHS Class Reunion Committee and attends Mentor High School events regularly with her family. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me congratulate Pam Trivisonno, 2017 Mentor Alumni inductee.
Thank you. Coming off of the first sentence, I'm coming off of tax season, and I don't hold many important jobs, but the one cool thing, as I've learned tonight listening to everybody, is that I've been granted the opportunity to be here at home and to give back to my school and my business community and my schools in various ways. So I'd like to introduce my family who is here, and we go way back. My husband is also a 1981 grad and the current Mentor football coach, and that brings me into the football. I am so saddened. I was looking forward to meeting Wally, and him not being here, I want you to let him know that I was looking forward to spending time with him today, and someday we'll make that happen. So my husband Steve, who was a teacher at Mentor High School and retired a couple years ago, and now is my house husband. Am I allowed to say that? Because I'm still working. I have 2 wonderful daughters. God took care of us and gave us girls so that we didn't have to worry about if they were going to play football or not. Carrie, my youngest, did play at Ridge in 7th grade. She did break the mold a little bit, but both of my girls are teachers, and I always say something happened, something went wrong, because I am in a family of teachers, And one of the girls said to me, "But Mom, think about what you do. And think about the teaching that goes on with your clients and with your volunteer efforts." And I hold that, I remember that, and that's what keeps me going, because somewhere down the road, they're going to be up here and thinking about their children and bringing them up, hopefully, well, maybe not in the Mentor community, but my brother, Patrick, who is a 1980 grad, so he was 15 months ahead of me, and I was always chasing after him and trying to be like him, and my dad and my stepmom. I have my Trivisonno family. To be at home and mentor and to have the ability to have all of my family here with me is just something very special to me. I have my father-in-law, my two sister-in-laws, both Mentor High School graduates, Lori and Marcia. And the other, listening to what I've done, and I think everything that I have done has been paramount to my family, getting involved in our school district from the time my kids were very young, helping our school district through our financial crisis of the early 2003, 2004. I got involved as a parent, and I stayed involved as a business member to bridge that gap in our community. Very active in our Chamber of Commerce, very active in bringing the business community into our schools and our schools out into the business communities. So if there's a way that I can connect business and education, I found it, and I'm trying to do that. So I may not have real big jobs, but I'm here and I'm giving back to my community. I became a self-employed CPA when my husband became the head coach, so that I could be home a little bit more with my kids, and that was the best decision of my life, to be here and stay here and mentor and stay with my professional life of being an active tax accountant. Going back to Mentor High School, many different people come to my mind, and I loved hearing the stories and many crossovers there. Ron Rose, I didn't know you were coming tonight, but I'm so glad you were here. I was in Ron's, Mr. Rose, I'm sorry. It's so hard to call them their first name. And that was hard when we came back into the school as a teacher, and you had to refer, they want you to refer to them as their first name, but they're Mr. Rose and Mr. Ness and Mrs. Goldfarb. I mean, I can't even call you Mrs. Clemens because you were Mrs. Goldfarb, who's here. I mean, they were just, to be able to be here and have them, you know, understand who I was as a student. I started off in college pre-law, decided that I wanted to get out of college and get married, so I opted to go the accountant's way instead of pre-law, but you know, business law class with Mr. Rose was an amazing, Mike talked about having electives, and I know our school, having educators in my family, life has changed in school with our requirements, our testing requirements and that, but I am who I am today because I took 2 years of accounting at Mentor High School. I took business law, I took business management. I don't know that if I wasn't exposed to that I would have gone that route and been the person I am today. So it pains me sometimes that the students don't have that opportunity, but I do that's why I take my time to go in and speak to the accounting classes and the business management classes to try to show them that that class is important. That class was important to me, and I want it to be important to them too. So thank you. Max Ness, who wasn't able to attend, I did invite him, but he was a teacher back when I was at Shore. I'm a Lake Elementary grad. I'm a Shore Cardinal and a Mentor High School Cardinal. And Mr. Ness was a teacher of mine at Shore and came up with us as our unit principal when we entered 10th grade. And he was always there for me and to get me through those moments when I needed somebody to crack the whip and tell me to go down the right path. So I appreciate those of you who know Max Ness is an important person in my life too. So Thank you again to my family. My theme tonight, I feel, is about giving. I try to give as much of myself and my skills and my knowledge that I can. That's my word. I was out there, I bought a bracelet on Facebook. I didn't need my notes, but I had my technology here, and the myintent.org project said we all have a word that is, and everybody, I want to think of that one word. If you have one word, think of that one word that you would want to have close to you, and mine says give. And that's what I feel I do. Every moment I'm thinking about how I can give to my family, to my friends, these guys are my friends, to be up here watching them participate in this activity, this organization for all these years. Rick has been bugging me for a couple years and finally got me to go through with it. So I appreciate being here for my school. That's the important thing. Thank you.
Our final stop in our timeline travel is in 1987. Mentor adopts the slogan, City of Choice, for his economic development and marketing campaign. Top quote, "Nobody puts baby in a corner." When Billy Idol's cover of Tommy James and the Shondells song, Moni Moni, reached #1 on the charts in 1987, it dethroned Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now, which was also a cover of a Tommy James and the Shondells song. Don Mattingly hit 6 Grand Slams in 1987 to set the Major League Baseball single-season record. Those 6 were also the only Grand Slams he would ever hit in his 14-year career. The U.S. Supreme Court rules the Rotary must admit women, and Amy Roediger graduated from Mentor High School. After 4 years at Hiram College, Amy earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in 1991. Her career started in Shaker Heights, teaching science and coaching the speech and debate team. She earned her Master's of Education degree at Cleveland State University and began teaching at Mentor High in 1996. She has served Mentor as a science teacher, science department coordinator, and instructional coach. She has brought to Mentor a skill set of K-12 teaching, curriculum design and development, educational technology, staff development, educational leadership, instructional technology, inquiry-based learning, iPad in education, to name a few, and the certifications and credentials to go with them. Her success in teaching has not gone unnoticed. She has received the Lubrizol High School Teacher of the Year, Student Choice Award for Outstanding Faculty Member, Mentor Schools in Excellence in Teaching Award, the Snook Award for Outstanding Forensics Coaching, Faculty Choice for Outstanding Faculty Member, Ohio Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching winner, and Innovative Educator. In 2006, Amy became a member of the Ohio High School Speech League Hall of Fame. In addition to teaching and coaching, Amy has participated in several fundraising projects for cancer research and fundraising for her local library. She has initiated educational clubs at her children's school and even plays first saxophone in the Lakeland Community College Orchestra. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Amy Roediger, 2017 Mentor Alumni Hall of Fame inductee.
Thanks so much. On the last day of school at Mentor High School, we have a breakfast in the cafeteria where the whole staff comes and sits down at a meal together. It really is one of my favorite days of the year because the entire staff, there's about 200 of us, are very rarely in the room together at one time. At that breakfast, they recognize the retirees of the year, and they award the Faculty Choice Award, which is the award that we give to the faculty member who we think deserves recognition. So that's a really amazing award because they read these things that your colleagues and your students have said about you. It is an overwhelming experience. And so one year, as we sat there listening to these really amazing stories, it was a particularly great year where an iconic teacher won the award. When they announce his name, the entire room, 200 people, stand up and start clapping for you. And in case anyone here knows him, the iconic teacher is Tom Makar. And he comes to the microphone, and the words he speaks are these: "You guys know I'm a gym teacher, right?" And I tell that story because I feel a little bit like that tonight. I've been honored for many years to have members of the Hall of Fame come and speak in my classroom to my students. And I remember one year in particular, there was a helicopter pilot who was shot down in combat and put men on his back and dragged people to safety. So I'm feeling a little Tom Makar up here on the one hand. On the other hand, if Willie Nelson's heroes have always been cowboys, mine have most definitely always been my teachers. And in fact, one of the best parts about returning to mentor was that I've been blessed by teaching side by side with people who I think taught me everything I know about being a teacher. And there's two of those guys that I need to talk just quickly about. So one is Hank Cavetta, who probably some of you had. He was my chemistry teacher, and the reason that I'm a chemistry teacher, up until Hank, I really thought I would be an elementary or a special ed teacher. But Hank introduced me to chemistry, and I wasn't his best student, but he never stopped encouraging me to pursue this, which was awesome. So I really learned what kind of teacher I wanted to be from Hank. And the second person taught me how to lead an extracurricular activity, and that was Ted Hieronymus. You heard that I was in top 25, and back then we did 85 shows a year, so I lived my life in M-Wing, and Ted gave his heart and soul to that activity, and I have tried very hard to do the same with the speech and debate kids. So, they sort of taught me what I needed to know. So then I left Mentor High and I went to college and I got my first teaching job at Shaker, and I was there for 4 years, and then I left and took a position at a private school, and I later came to call that year the worst year of my professional life. So it got to be May of the worst year of my professional life, and I needed a new job. So I found myself at the Mentor High School choir concert. I don't know if there was an alumni thing or if I just went, but there I was. And I had a minute with Ted before the concert started, and I sat down and we just sort of visited for a minute, and I said, "Listen, I really need a job. So is there anything you can do to get Zoe and Yeti to retire?" And some of you probably know Zoe, and she's a lovely woman. Anyway, Ted said, I think that she is going to retire, and so I'm going to suggest that you connect with whoever you need to try and get that job. I'll put in a good word. So the next day when I got done teaching, I drove back to Mentor High School, and I walked into what was then B46 and is now B219, which has been my next door room for 21 years. And I said to Hank Cavetta, "You got to get me a job, man." And he said, "We'll do it." Interestingly, since both Susan and Michael brought him up, when I was done talking to Hank that day, he said, "I think it would really help if another science teacher would go to bat for you, so who can you go talk to besides me?" And I had to weigh, was it going to be Tom Ramsey or Jerry Kinsvater? And he was a little mean, but in a good way, so I just took a deep breath and walked down to Jerry's room and said, "Hi, can you help?" And so literally those two guys, Hank Cavetta and Ted Hieronymus, got me this job. So I've told you a little bit about two people who were really instrumental to me, and now I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, which is this. In 3 weeks' time, it's going to be Teacher Appreciation Week, and I hope that either you will write a letter to someone who's doing a great job, or you will encourage someone in your life to do the same. It is a very difficult and becoming more demanding job every day. It's worth it, but it's a hard job. And there's nothing as wonderful as a thank you note. Any gift you could ever consider giving will be appreciated, but not as much as a beautiful thank you note. I save every one I've ever received, and they go such a long way on a hard day toward making you realize you can get up and do it again the next one. So take a minute to thank a teacher, because it really is such an important thing to do. And then in the spirit of thank yous, there's a couple that I want to give. So first, of course, to the Hall of Fame committee and my aunt who nominated me. Thank you so much. I'm beyond honored to be in this Hall of Fame, so thank you so much. My family is here with me tonight, which is terrific. My parents, who were my first best teachers, are here, and that's great. My kids and my husband, they are incredibly forgiving about all the time that I give to my job, so thanks so much, you guys. I should say something about my students. Obviously, none of them are here, but there are a couple of parents of my students here, including Michael, is the dad of one of my former students. I learned more from the 2,500 of them than they ever could have learned from me, so I'm incredibly grateful to them. To the teachers at Mentor High School, I can't say enough ways what an incredible group of people these are. It's amazing and inspiring to work with them, every one of them. There's a few members of the staff who are here tonight. They all know how much I love them. It is an amazing place to work. And then the last group of people that I have to thank is the Mentor High School administration. Our school has changed quite a bit in 5 years, and I have no idea how these administrators challenge me to try the next harder thing while supporting and celebrating me the whole way. I wouldn't try any of the things that I did, except one of them, and many of them are sitting here, says, you know, Amy, I think you could probably do such and such, and I think there's no way I can do that, but then the next thing I know, someone's handing me a book or showing me a podcast, and then I think like, okay, yeah, I'll try that, I guess. So the innovation that we're doing, I think the teachers are doing a great part of that, but in part because we're celebrated and supported as we do. So thanks very much to the Mentor High administration. Thanks, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have another round of applause for the most deserving 2017 Hall of Fame inductees? I'd like to take a moment and thank the Croatian Hall and staff for a wonderful evening. And now I'm pleased to introduce a talented graduate from the class of 2009, Miss Ellie Kelly, who is going to lead us in the alma mater.
Okay, at the very last page of your program has all of the words in case you don't know them. And everyone is invited to join me except for my mother because she's banned from singing in public. Keep the banners waving o'er us, floating towards the sky. We've a team that's fighting for us. Cheer for Mentor High. Alma mater, alma mater, when from thee we part, we shall keep thy memories ever woven in our hearts.
Thank you again for joining us tonight, and please drive home safely.